This shelf that I'm building has been keeping me busy for the better part of the past 7 weeks. Of course, I work on a bunch of other projects on the side, but the shelf has been my main focus. In this time, I first built the steel structure before starting to furnish it with wood, which is the part that I'm still working on today. Whatever I did it with a single aim in mind, which is to build something extremely robust. And I hope that by the end of this video series, you will agree with me that I accomplished that. Anyway, the good news is that it's almost finished. So now, without further ado, let's get back to it. The first thing I did was to treat the wood with tung oil as recommended by one of our viewers. Another thing which I had to finish before continuing with the shelf was to paint the entire wheelhouse with another coat of paint. I also put some filler on uneven areas of the shelf before painting it too with several coats of paint. Now that this is done, let's put the boards back that we need to continue with the next step, which is to build a robust base to position the Victron Quattro on top of. For this, I first cut the top layer out of the same plywood that I used for the wooden structure so far. For the front panel, which will accommodate the battery switch, the battery monitor and the circuit breakers, I got a solid piece of teak wood. I chose teak wood mainly because of how hard it is. Its beautiful patterns and colors are an added bonus. The board I have here is 18 mm thick. I then cut 4 pillars out of some leftover oak wood from the door frames I recently built. These pillars will serve as the legs for the plywood base to rest on. So next I have to trim the teak wood plate to the right height. For this, I'm using my Japanese saw, which has become my weapon of choice for any kind of precision woodworking. And just have a look at this. Even though the cut looks like it was done by a monkey, there is zero splintering of the wood. So let's put everything in place to see where we are at so far. This is the concept I'm going with here. One of the 4 pillars doesn't quite line up with the others because there is a steel flat profile in the way. That of course is just another day at the office for my Japanese saw, so here's how that went. And it turned out pretty good. I certainly could have done it a bit more precise, but that's not what is needed here. All that matters is that it fits. Next, I cut 3 beams to connect the 4 legs between each other. Here again, just like I did with the door frames, I'm gonna use dowel joinery to connect the wood pieces together. The most difficult part with this is to make sure that the hole is drilled at the same angle between the 2 pieces of wood. And I have to admit that the difficulty mainly arises from applying questionable methods and from using unsuited tools for the job. The next day it had snowed a little during the night, but that's not gonna hold me back because I have some holes to drill into the teak wood plate. I'll start with the biggest hole for the main battery switch. Once the hole is cut, I'll file and sand away the excess material until the battery switch fits. Next I'll cut the much smaller hole for the battery monitor, and I thought that for this the best tool would be the hole saw. However, as you will see, something clearly went wrong. The cold must have messed with my brain, because I was sure that I had chosen the right diameter, but obviously I did not. I then finished the job with the jigsaw, hoping that I can somehow hide this mistake in the final product. Next I have to cut a rectangle for the AC circuit breakers. And finally, I have to cut a long rectangular hole for the wires that go directly into the inverter charger. And now we can put the painted wooden boards back to where they belong and bolt them down. The wooden components of the base for the Victron Quattro have also been treated with a thin layer of tung oil. To finish this little stand, I still have to connect the two parts I made yesterday with a horizontal beam. And so here is the finished stand that's gonna have to carry the 30+ kilos of the Victron Quattro. And while I'm fairly confident that it can easily carry this load, I realize now that I could have built it even stronger by putting the horizontal beams on top of the legs instead of attaching them sideways. Anyway, let's put it where it belongs, and then we have a look at what we got. Next comes the top cover of our little platform here. And finally the front panel. And there you have it. Of course, in the end I will add some bolts and screws where necessary, but to me this seems already very robust and perfectly capable to fulfill its purpose. The next step will be to position the Victron Quattro into the shelf together with all its components and wire everything up. And because it's AC current we're working with here, I don't want to rush anything and really take my time when setting this up. And so I'm gonna end it here for today. Wish you all the best and hope to see you in the next video.